Hi, my name is Emma Vanderhayden, and today I'm going to be talking about what I've learned in the Latin American Frontiers course. So, when I started this course, I really had no knowledge of Latin America at all, and this course definitely improved my knowledge about what I know about the region. I think the first half of the course was really focused on history. I learned a lot about the Spanish conquest and the consequences it has today, like the dependence in Latin America. I also learned a lot about the different independence movements in Latin America, along with different imperialist measures that happened in Latin America. However, I think the second half of the course really opened my eyes to what's going on in Latin America today. That's a really big reason why I actually took this course. I wanted to know why Latin America was in the news all the time, what was really going on there, and I think the second half of this course really showed me. So, one of the first readings in the second half of the course was about the rubber boom. I think the rubber boom is a great example of how Latin America is a frontier. Rubber was found in trees in the Amazon, and it was actually a huge help with the Industrial Revolution. I think without the help that rubber in the Amazon would give the Industrial Revolution, it wouldn't have had the effect that it did. We also see how profit in Latin America really could help a city. The city of Manaus was a just a normal city in the Amazon, not really advanced or anything like that. But after the rubber boom, it became so advanced. It had an opera house. Had different entertainment places. It just became a booming city, and it was crazy to see that happen in a place like the Amazon just because of the rubber boom. After we learned about the rubber boom, we learned about Honduras. So the article titled Cellular Violence was, I think, the most eye-opening article that I read this whole unit. I had no idea what was going on in Honduras. So in Honduras, different indigenous lands are being used to exploit minerals and resources, and not just indigenous lands, also just lands that people farm on. Just like normal people farming on lands, their lands are being taken away from them because companies want to exploit the resources in those lands. So I did not know that people, activists who are trying to go against the different exploitative measures these companies are taking, were actually getting killed by members close to the government or even in the government just for standing up for what they believe in. So I think that really shows the violence in some Latin American countries and how there really is not freedom of speech in this region. After that, I learned about the Andes and the different minerals that were available in the Andes. And I learned about the huge indigenous populations in the Andes Mountains, such as the indigenous population in Bolivia. They actually recently elected a president who was of indigenous culture, which I think is really forward thinking and really is progressive for the region. After that, I learned about women in mining, which was really, really eye-opening to me because I have heard about in a lot of Latin American countries, especially in Mexico, the different ways that women are really put down and men are always on a higher standard. So it was crazy to me that women had started their own movement all by themselves. So women in countries like Peru and in Ecuador were starting their own movements to support anti-mining in their countries. And they would do this with big acts like protests and community meetings, but they would also do this through small acts every day, like just avoiding being bought off, because that was a huge problem in Peru and Ecuador. People would get bought off by the companies, say, oh, you're going to get paid a lot later, just support what we're doing, but then they wouldn't really ever see the money. But these women are just refusing to be bought off by these companies. They're also continuing their agricultural way of life, which is a really big way to just show these companies that they're not going to stop what they're doing. They're not going to stop the tradition that they have just so that their region can get a little more money, when in reality, their region isn't one that's getting money. It's the companies that are really gaining the profit. After learning about women in anti-mining, I learned about effective economies and effective extraction. So this was really shocking to me that the Dominican Republic is actually known for selling women and women's bodies and relationships. So in countries like the Dominican Republic and different countries in the Caribbean, but mostly the Dominican Republic, women are actually sold on in a tourism packages. So they'll have photos of women, and that will make foreign men, want to come to the region. Now, this gives money to the tourist companies and the country, but also the women who are showcased in these ads then men go there with the hope that they will actually meet women like that, and the women are taking advantage of that and actually going on dates with these men, having sexual relations with these men. And a lot of people in the Dominican Republic now really go through the informal sector, and they make a lot of money through having these relationships with these men. So I just think it's really interesting that women are actually making a profit off of these foreign men, just through really just selling their, not even necessarily their bodies, just selling their relationships, and sometimes they're not even that committed, just to make money from these foreign men. I also learned about different things that go against, I think it's called machismo in Latin America. So in Anthony Bourdain's documentary series, he talked about in Argentina how many people in Latin America and Argentina go through psychotherapy or go to see a psychiatrist or therapist, which is something that I never thought would happen in Latin America because it is so like, you just hide your feelings, you know, like it's really man-based too. You don't really talk about your feelings, but I just found that really interesting that people in Argentina just would always go to therapists and would always go to psychotherapists because they just think of it as a way to be healthy. Also, Anthony Bourdain's documentary taught me about Uruguay and how progressive it is. Again, I did not think that this would happen in Latin America, in a place where all you're really seeing is horrible things like violence and like reporters getting killed, stuff like that. But then you see Uruguay, which is really progressive, has amazing abortion rights and stuff like that, and it's just insane to see the different contrast between countries like Honduras and countries like Uruguay. Anthony Bourdain's documentary series also taught me about how important meat is to the region. I did not know that they really had meat all that often, and it was insane to see how important it is for them really to get together for meals. In America, I don't even sit down with my parents to have a meal, but in those countries, it's really important to sit down, enjoy your time, and really talk to the people that you're with. So after learning about the different way food can influence culture, I learned about what's going on in Mexico. So maquiladoras are actually something that I have known about before, but I did not know about the different environmental effects that maquiladoras give. And this is also something that you can see throughout the different like mining practices or deforestation. You can see the environmental effects, but in maquiladoras, it's mostly like poisons and chemicals getting leaked into the air, getting leaked into the water. People are actually getting sick from this. I believe one woman in the documentary you watched, Mikiopoulos, sorry, that was so wrong to pronounce, I don't know how to pronounce it, but in the documentary, she actually went to the doctor and they said, you're probably going to get leukemia because you're exposed to these chemicals. And a woman would come out every day with different hives on their bodies, showing different signs of illness because they're around these different chemicals all day. So it really showed me how much America really doesn't care about different countries and how their workers are being treated. Also, I learned about ghost unions, which were unions that say they're in effect, but it really only helps the employer. And again, it just showed me how America really does not care about the employees in Mexico. So overall, I think the second half of this course really taught me about the different exploitative measures that the US, Europe, and China are taking place in Latin America, and it also showed me the environmental effects these are having, and not just environmental effects, also social effects, like the indigenous culture is really just being teared down because European countries and America really just want to make money. So overall, I think I learned a lot about how America and Europe are really just money-hungry countries, just diving into the resources of Latin America just for profit. So I think this course really opened my eyes to everything that's going on in Latin America and the different practices that are taking place that make it the region it is today.